I got back in the car and I was like, okay, Bruce, we're about to blow up this automobile.
We're actually going to blow this car up.
For a moment, I think he was afraid that it was going to be a murder-suicide, that I was about to blow it up with both of us in it.
You should have told me this to begin with, because I would have went along with anything. That sounds wild, man.
It must have been really scary for him. Hello, my name is John Wilson, and I made How To with John Wilson. And this is a scene that is worth analyzing. The script looks crazy for a How To episode. The script that we start an episode with is completely rewritten from the ground up by the time, we end up with the final script. I had 4 or 5 teams of B unit shooters going out and filming every single day while I was doing the kind of A unit stuff. Every day there was a scavenger hunt list of different items that you needed to kind of catch, like Pokemon across the city. But then I tell them if they see anything more interesting than what's on the list, just go and do that instead. For How to Watch Birds, I really wanted to do an episode that dealt with truth. I was having a lot of difficulty with people not believing certain parts of the show when I put so much effort into making sure that everything is real.
Guy you meet in the supermarket, was he just in the supermarket?
Yeah. I'm kind of a purist in a lot of ways about making sure that the image is kind of real and feels authentic. And I had this kind of little telltale heart moment with this shot of a toilet that I faked.
You needed to have at least one day on a stage in order to get a tax credit for the show. So you rented a studio and had them rebuild the whole bathroom from scratch.
That was really getting to me, and I feel like that anxiety just began to bubble up while I was making this episode about birds.
You thought that people would be really excited about it, but after it aired, the only response was people asking you if it was actually real.
The episode started innocently enough just about birds. I get pretty distracted pretty easily, and I like to take the first detour that I can, once it's presented when I'm interviewing somebody. So when someone started to talk about truth and how you have to be honest when you're talking about a bird that you've seen, it started to make me think a lot about this one shot that I had manufactured. Instead of continuing to just cover that in a rug, I just wanted to pry it open and see what could blossom if I admitted to the audience that I had faked the shot.
Maybe birding is the wrong hobby if everyone thinks you're dishonest.
99.9% of the show is real. It's as you see it. I realized that once I confessed to having faked the shot, that I would be able to kind of go as far as I want in that direction just for within the parameters of this one episode. I started to write this strange conspiracy thriller, which involved a Titanic conspiracy theorist that I found after having a conversation with someone in a bar.
So the damaged ship was actually brought out into the open ocean as the Titanic and sunk on purpose. The idea was to cash in on an insurance policy.
One of the authors of the book that I got about the conspiracy theory was this guy named Bruce Beveridge. He had the most interesting name on the book, and I just had production contact him and ask if he wanted to be interviewed for this documentary about the Titanic. And he said, yeah. While that's happening, I'm starting to write this kind of strange thriller that doesn't really have an ending, and I'm not really sure what it's going to turn into. I start to think about what kind of trouble I could get in if I did try to expose this Titanic myth. I had written James Cameron into this script somehow. James Cameron was originally the kind of shadowy figure that was sending me anonymous emails and telling me to go to hotel rooms and stuff like that. I kind of ended up cutting that out just to keep it a bit more vague. The guy Bruce Beveridge and I meet up in Pigeon Forge in Tennessee. It's a very kind of freakish American roadside attraction place with upside down houses and stuff like that. There's also this massive replica of the Titanic that was also a museum in Pigeon Forge, so it was kind of the perfect place for us to go.
So is this like based off the Olympic or Titanic?
Oh, no, this is Titanic.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't hard to convince him to just keep hanging out. I did have him drive my car because I needed to film him. One of the only requests he had during it was a bottle of Malibu for him and his wife to drink at night. He was really excited to be part of anything. We just found the absolute perfect person for this just by rolling the dice with whoever had the most interesting name.
I go, if I come down here, can I get a job at the museum? And he told me no. They wouldn't hire me here. I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
So much of the writing of How To happens in real time. So as Bruce was telling me about the Olympic and Titanic being these ships that were swapped, I started to think about what it would be like to basically do the same thing but with my car. I really wanted to swing for the fences with this last season and do a lot of stuff that I may have been a bit too bashful to ask for in the first two. I've always been a huge fan of Steven Soderbergh. I basically just wanted to meet him. I figured the best way would be to ask him if he wanted to consult on the episode. He's one of the first people I thought of because I wanted the second and third act of this episode to have a very Soderbergh kind of flavor to it. We sent him the script and he read it, and then we hopped on a call and just talked about it. He really liked the script and I think didn't really have many notes on it, but just gave us some advice about using professionals when blowing up a car. We spent most of the time talking about the Cheesecake Factory. He was wearing a Cheesecake Factory hat and I had never been there.
I like your Cheesecake Factory hat.
He just started talking about how it's just such an efficient operation, it's such a big menu and all that stuff, which is true.
I wish every organization and government agency or even another restaurant worked like the Cheesecake Factory. This thing just works.
I can see that, translating to the way that he makes his work sometimes. I went to the Cheesecake Factory shortly after our conversation. I got very sick.
I'm like, how do you do all of this?
We had to find a 1989 Volvo of the same condition and model number and everything to bring to Tennessee to blow up in a parking lot. We eventually get the car and bring it all the way out to Tennessee, and we have it stripped, we have it lined with explosives. The other logistical problem that was even more difficult was finding the exact location that we could to shoot it in. I had in my mind a motel that had a balcony that looked out onto a parking lot, and we needed that parking lot to allow us to blow up a car in it. My team eventually found this Flapjack's parking lot that had everything in it.
I think I faked a shot in one of my documentaries, and I told someone that it was real. And I feel kind of guilty about it.
In the reality of the show, Bruce was the one person that knew my secret, that I faked a single toilet shot. He then goes into this Oscar-worthy monologue about police corruption.
I used to be a police officer. I know what that means.
How do you mean?
Well, sometimes you gotta fake some things.
It was just one of the most chilling confessions I've ever witnessed in person. This is what's great about the format though, which I really love, is that I don't mind setting up strange situations that you don't realize are set up, because whatever's happening within them is real, and that is the most important thing to me. So when he's confessing about stuff he did as a police officer in Chicago, that is all 100% real, and that's what I'm trying to get to in any environment that I kind of try to enter.
I'm just gonna go check something out in the motel.
Okay.
So I go in and I film this one little scene where the door is ajar.
You walk in, but there doesn't seem to be any signs of life anywhere.
It's kind of a red herring to create enough distance between, seeing Bruce in the car and then seeing it blow up. You're meant to think that maybe Bruce died in in the explosion, in that I'm a homicidal documentarian. I realized that I don't need to hide this from him anymore because he's clearly confused at this point.
So is this what you thought it would be?
No, and I'm going to ask you when you get the camera turned off again what the hell you guys are really doing.
It was killing me that I couldn't be like fully transparent with him. It must have been really scary for him, especially the way I delivered it. I got back in the car and I was like, okay, Bruce, we're about to blow up this automobile.
We're actually going to blow this car up, or blow up a car, a duplicate version of this car.
For a moment, I think he was afraid that it was going to be a murder-suicide, that I was about to blow it up with both of us in it. And I could kind of see that in his eyes for a moment. But then I kind of explained that although our interactions have been authentic, there has been this background process the whole time of this conspiracy thriller that is going to culminate in this car exploding right now, because I wanted to commit some kind of insurance fraud, much like the Olympic did with the Titanic. And he understood that immediately, and his only question was something to the effect of, like, are you allowed to do that?
You got permission to do that for somebody?
Yeah.
And how does that play into it?
There's a bit of a Titanic switch. You know,
I'm assassinated because I revealed that the switch wasn't real.
The stunt team, everybody was hiding behind the hotel the whole time, you know, and everyone was like really well hidden. And everyone came out just like a bunch of roaches. We had the duplicate of my car lined with explosives that we then carried out into the parking lot and removed my car. We only had one shot to do this.
It's going to be Action John until he gets to the point that we all decide. Yep. Action Fletcher on the glove.
So much time and effort and secrecy had gone into making this happen in this exact order to line up at this exact time, you know, just like so the lighting is right, everything.
Maybe what you really need now is just a little time to
Fuck! It's just like such a miracle that it worked out. I didn't realize that we hadn't told anyone staying in the motel that we were doing that. So immediately this guy runs out, starts screaming at the crew, and he is so upset that we didn't tell him that we were blowing up a car like next to his balcony, but it was like far enough away, and I think he was just being a little dramatic. While I'm trying to get coverage of this flaming car and the fire department and all that stuff, I have this man screaming not too far away from me who's really upset that his car alarm went off. All of the cops in the scene are actual cops, and they just like were okay with acting for me. I thought that was really funny. I thought they did a really good job.
Was there anybody in the vehicle?
Yeah, my friend Bruce.
I kind of just wanted to make a piece of work that you could point to and just be like, look, it's okay if there are manipulated elements in some kind of nonfiction work that you're doing, because there is no purity. And even though this is a really cartoonish way to prove a point, the message is still important to me, that you shouldn't be too offended when you find out that something wasn't exactly as it seems, because that's how everything is.
The next time something seems too good to be true, just enjoy that you live in a world where something like that is possible.
I really do feel like we got away with like a heist after 3 seasons of How To. I feel really fortunate that we were able to do that. But I've always considered the work to be really cinematic, and I kind of want to continue to move in that direction, but just like in a slightly different format. I don't like working with actors, so I'll probably still work in nonfiction.